Combine small town roots with business savvy, and you've got the Rural Rundown podcast. We're sharing our marketing and branding strategies, tips, and tricks that rural businesses can use to educate, inspire, and entertain their customers, and to help you make sales and hit profit goals. So what does it take to go from your mom is your only fan to famous in a small town? Tune in and listen up as we feature business owners and organizations that are doing big things in their community and creating opportunities for generations to come.
Hey everybody, today we're back with something new. It's called the Sidebar Sit Down. So we're just going to have a quick conversation on what's on our mind lately. So today I have with me Brenna, and I kind of have a topic to talk to her on. And Brenna, are you ready for this?
I'm totally ready. You clued me in a little bit on what it is, and I think I love it. I'm ready for it.
Okay, so if you're watching this on video, I am holding up a Aesop's Fables book. I had this when I was growing up as a kid, and now it's I put it in my son's bookshelf. So when he was trying to fall asleep the other day, I read the first story, which is on the cover, which is The Tortoise and the Hare. So we all know this story, probably a little too well. And the proverb, or the main takeaway of the story is slow and steady wins the race. So I want to dissect each part of that phrase, slow and steady wins the race, and kind of how I've been thinking about it and how I think we could start applying it to our lives, our business, and everything. So, Brenna, to put you on the spot first, what comes to mind when you think of this story?
Frustration. Because what I had talked about you earlier today in my business is all of this stuff that's like happening at once. And I get so frustrated, especially because my boyfriend owns his own business and he's been in business for himself longer than I have. So a lot of times I find myself being like, I'm not at the point that he's at. And I get so frustrated. And I'm sure he says this to me all the time about slow and steady wins the race, and that it takes time and we all have to put in our time to like get to that point. But it's like, I just feel like I should be there, and it sucks that I'm not there. So it's funny that you bring this up, because I feel frustration when I think about slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, I do too. And when I think about this first story, and I think that's why it's hitting me so hard and I've been thinking about it so much, is to give you a little bit of context. When I think about this, I think of being like in grade school and hearing this story, and like, who wants to be a turtle? Nobody wants to be a turtle. You want to be the rabbit. You want to be fast. You want to be quick. You want to be clever. Like, why would you be slow? That doesn't sound like any fun. You don't want to, be at the back of the pack. But when I think about this and I decided to like ruminate on it, the first thing that I saw when we talk about the word slow, just all those things I said right in the past two sentences, when I think about slow, I get impatient. Nobody wants to be slow. I get stuck on that word. And I think a lot of us do. We see this phrase, we see slow first, we're done with it because we want it fast. We want results. We need to see results right away. This is across the board. When I've talked to friends about, for example, like trying to eat healthier or see results with weight loss, things like that. We all want to see it right away. We want to get all of our clients. Say we have a goal to get 10 clients. We want all of them in the first month.
Yeah.
But when we think like that, I think we almost set ourselves up, because if that all did happen, it would be really unattainable for all of us if everything just happened right when we want it. And that's not the way nature works. If we think about seasons, if we put, right now I'm in planting mode, if we put corn in the ground and it just grew right away, like, oh, that would be great. But that's not how it works. It has to sit, it has to grow, it has to grow through these different stages, has to weather some storms, has to get the right nutrients, it has to have everything to grow and become what we need it to be. So getting stuck at slow is unfortunate, but we can't get stuck there, because when we do, we don't see the next step, which is,
I think the other thing about slow too is when I think about slow, I think about inefficiency. Like when you're slow at something, you're not being efficient. And that catches me up too, where I'm like, if I'm not being efficient, then I'm not getting anywhere. Like, why be slow? Like, what is the deal with it? So I think that's the other part of it, is like, what are we putting on the word slow? Like, what is our past beliefs and our past issues? What are we like putting on this word slow?
Yes. Oh, that's like a dagger to my heart. Inefficiency hurts me. But you're right. Yes.
Yes.
Because maybe that isn't, yes, maybe I feel inefficient, but in the context to slow, maybe my growth isn't inefficient because those things that I'm
Right.
having to do that aren't going at my expected rate are the way, that would actually get me there to the right place.
Mhm.
Which kind of moves me back into the next word. So we go slow and steady. They're together, but let's look at steady. Um, when I started thinking about the word steady, it made me think, okay, I get mad about slow not going anywhere. But when you think about steady, steady is something that's happening. It's like
Mhm.
like, when my microphone, the little, what's that called?
The metronome.
Yes, the metronome.
Yeah.
It's at a consistent beat. It's
Yep.
not really, it could be a slow beat, it could be a fast beat, but it's something is happening. It's consistent. So that means steady. If we're steady, we're showing up every single day. We're doing the things we need to do
Mhm.
to get to the end of the race. So sometimes when we think about slow, it feels like we're not doing anything, but actually if we're being steady, we are doing something that is moving the needle forward. What's coming to your mind with steady?
Yeah, when you talked about consistency, when you planted this seed in my brain to be like, I think I want to talk about this. When you're talking about being consistent and you're like, if we're being consistent, then all of a sudden the beat gets faster, right? So if we think about the metronome and we just keep going and we just keep beating the drum, at some point that gets faster and faster and faster. That's what gets us to the end of the race. That was like mind blowing to think about it and think about being like, okay, yeah, like stay steady, like stay doing it. And you hear it all the time from everybody where it's like you do these little things over time and it compounds over time and that equals the big thing. I think that's what Oli tells me probably the most is like, and when you're going, so like I just bought new lights for this camera setup that we're with. When I go from 0 lights to 1 light, like that's exponential growth. But if I go from having one camera to having two cameras, well, I'm still at the same two. I'm still the same tool, and I'm not growing. But if we just like stay consistent and you just like get that one piece over time, it compounds, and then you just have exponential growth every time. Like that's what steady means to me, just to keep beating the drum and just keep moving forward.
Yes. Yes, I love that. So the next part of this that I already kind of alluded to it, is we have to pair slow and steady together. So
Mhm.
it's embracing that together is really what wins the race. It's not
Yeah.
one or the other, it's compounded. And one thing this is not my original thought, so I can't take credit for it, but I thought it was such a game changer. I was listening to someone talk about how when we have humility about the work that we do each day, we can get excited about the tasks we have to do and we have to complete to move forward. Because if we reverse all the way back to day one, when we started our first businesses and we had our first client, maybe not even a client, maybe just a lead who called us and
Mhm.
said, "What do you do? How can you help me?" And the excitement that was to even get to talk to a person who believed in you enough to reach out to you and then possibly hired you and you got to work on your first project. How can we approach every single day like that? And if we did, this slow and steady doesn't look so unattractive in a way because we are enjoying our work and we're excited to do it. And I thought that was a really interesting. It was kind of a kick in the butt because sometimes I can be, I mean, obviously you got to be smart and you got to be efficient in your business and
Mhm.
maybe you do need to delegate some things. But on those days when I'm really dragging my feet because I don't want to edit another video or schedule another post or follow up on another project that I've already followed up on, like I need to think about this is a privilege and this is exciting and this is what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
bringing that joy back to it.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting way to look at it. There's two things that I've seen on, well, So two things I saw on TikTok lately. One of them was a funny video about Etsy. If you're ever an Etsy seller, you know that the app, when you make a sale, makes a nice little cash register, like cha-ching kind of sound. And they're like, if you're an Etsy seller, like, you know what this sound means. And today I was working on a packing slip that I send with all my Etsy orders. And it was like, thanks for your order. Like, it really makes a difference. And I was like, man, am I being cheesy? Like, does it really make my day? And I'm like, you know what? It does make my day. Like, you're darn right. Every time I get an order, it's like, oh, cool. Somebody bought something for me. Like, that's really badass. Like, somebody cares about what I'm doing enough to like buy it and purchase it and put their own money on it. The other thing that I recently saw on TikTok was somebody talking about how like they want to be that girl. So they just start living their life like that girl that gets up at 6 a.m. and drinks a fancy coffee that she made at home, and she works out, and then she goes and like works on her empire and, does whatever. And I was like, why has it taken me this long to realize that? And we think about mindset. When Rachel said she wanted to talk about mindset today, I'm like, yes, heck yes, I want to talk about mindset, because it's something I've really been trying to focus on in the last year. But like really in the last 6 months, to be like, how do I change my mindset and like make it work for you? Because that's what life is all about, right? Like it's working for you. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. Like, you got to take advantage of that. And then you decide if you're going to work up every day and work on your own business, or if you're going to go to work for somebody else. And you decide every day, if you wake up, that you're going to be happy and excited about the little things in your business, or you're going to be perturbed about spending all day in your emails. Whatever it is, like, you have the choice to do it. You have the choice to choose to go slow and steady, or you have the choice to make it work a little bit faster. No matter what it is, though, it's still that consistent, still that steady race. Like, my friend Amy Jo Martin, she always says up and to the left. Like, that's how the graph is working, or up and to the right. The graph is always going up and to the right. It's always moving up and to the right. Like, that's how it's working. And so again, like that slow, consistent steadiness of going up and up and up, next thing you know, you're already at the top.
Oh my God, I love
So,
that. Yeah, you don't want to be like this. I think about the stocks that go whoop and then like crash. You don't want to be that.
yeah.
You want to be rising.
Yeah.
I love
Slow and
that. That's
steady.
so good. Oh, that is perfect. You like tie it in a nice little bow. The last thing I want to say is before we did an interview today, and then we're wrapping it up with this short sidebar. We're both talking about how our to-do lists are just feeling ginormous and gigantic. And as I said before, there's some days where it's just like, oh, work. But I do love what I do. And I think bringing that like love back to it and knowing we can slow and steadily step, even though we're continually adding to our list too, we can chip away at those lists. Like, maybe we'll both walk away with encouragement today. If you have a big to-do list or things just are piling up on you, I encourage you to think about slow and steady, what it means to you. And the end of that sentence, slow and steady wins the race. I mean, some of our races don't have a finite end, but we're working towards those goals, those things, building businesses, building the life we want. And I encourage you to get there. We just have to pair them together and not get stuck at slow or anything else. We can keep moving forward.
Yeah. One last thing. Turtles are freaking cool, man. Who doesn't want to be a turtle?
Oh my gosh. Turtles are cool. So
think about all the sights you get to see on the way.
And if you're not going so fast, you can actually enjoy them and like take them in and appreciate them. Because if you're going too fast, you ain't gonna see them.
No.
Turtles for the win.
Turtles for the win.
If you're a jackrabbit, then we gotta say go Jacks. But we'll end it there. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Rural Rundown podcast.
Thanks for listening. You can always find us on social media at the Rural Rundown.
And if you really liked this episode, we would totally love it if you gave us a review and gave us a little rating.
It would mean so much to us. And for more small town roots and business savvy, catch us on the next one.